It's the most anticipated time of the year, the holidays. The ban list. It's the ban list prediction season. And with players not wanting to give up some of their favorite archetypes, as well as Konami pushing new meta decks, such as Yugioh and Malice, many players are wondering what Konami will be hitting on the upcoming list. And beginning with the limited list, we're going to be starting with the card that we've been seeing most in all of the players' side decks, and that is Dimensional Barrier. And now I know a lot of players have a love-hate relationship with Dimensional Barrier, and even some have been asking for its hit or ban for many years now, but we've been seeing that it's been floating around comfortably at 3 for quite some time. But it would not be a surprise to me if we see Konami do what kind of Konami does best, and that is put Dimensional Barrier to 1. Not only have we been seeing Dimensional Barrier in every single side deck in the most recent YCS, but it is even more impactful with the most recent archetype, Yugioh. And we see time and time again that Konami does hit cards that sometimes they even let go floating around in the OCG, like Artifact Scythe, but in the TCG, they will actually limit them here or outright ban them to make sure that we are able to play the newer decks as they come out. So Dimensional Barrier, quite possibly being limited on the next list. Now, these next two limits are kind of keeping theme with Konami pushing players off of the current decks that they're playing into the new metagame, and that is a limitation to Kashtira Unicorn. And this is because a lot of players have been main decking the Kashtira engine in all sorts of the meta decks, and in the most recent YCS, we saw tons of Kashtiras getting teched in all sorts of decks. Just by opening Unicorn and special summoning it, you have all sorts of combo lines available to you just off of one summon, and that is excluding its ability that allows you to go through the opponent's extra deck and hit a card out of it. And not only that, but we've also seen Unicorn hit in the OCG, and it has previously been hit in the TCG as well. So it wouldn't be a surprise to me if Konami kind of goes back to that sentiment of hitting Unicorn and keeping players from just putting Kashtira in every single one of their decks. And that brings us to our next card, and that is the Kashtira field spell, the Pressured Planet. And again, when you look at the most recent YCS, including their side decks, you're seeing a lot of players are playing 3 of their Pressured Planet. And that is to add the Unicorn, summon the Unicorn, and go into all the combo lines off of one card. So again, if we're saying that they're going to be hitting cards like the Kashtira Unicorn, it's almost fair to assume that we're going to be seeing a hit to the Pressured Planet as well. And now dipping into the side deck a little bit, I do believe we're going to be seeing a hit to the Bestial Druisworm. And now we saw the Bestial Magna Hut get hit quite some time ago to cut down the consistency of those side decks, but Druisworm has most comfortably taken that spot. And not only is it an interruption from the graveyard, a body on board, but having that it is a spot removal when it's sent to the graveyard is just really good. And honestly, if they're looking to bring out more light and dark decks, especially with some graveyard effects like Eldritch was, they have to kind of trim down some of the Bestials that are floating around in the side decks, because time and time again, these bad boys take over the metagame. And then probably the most anticipated card being on the limited list is Heavy Storm. And that is because not only is it limited in the OCG, but we see in the Quarter Century Bonanza, it has been released as a reprint. And now I know a lot of cards that are still on the list are in the Bonanza as well, but it is questionable if Heavy Storm can go to 1 in the TCG, and a lot of players think it can. And then wrapping up our limited list, we are ending with the card with the most recent errata, and that definitely is kind of a foreshadow for it to be unbanned, and that is none other than Summon Sorceress. But leading into our semi-limited list is potentially one of the most important cards of the metagame, and that is Gold Sarcophagus. And now, Gold Sarcophagus has been a card that's been floating around 1 for quite some time. Not only was it good in Thunder Dragon or Dragon Ruler, but with the up-and-coming Malice deck, being able to banish any Malice, pay the life points, and then special it directly from the banished zone, we're going to be seeing Gold Sarc be in all sorts of meta decks. And also one of the reasons it was mentioned in some of our most recent top 10 lists. But with Fiendsmith plaguing the metagame and Konami clearly having to do something about it, it is a potential that we might see a semi-limitation to Fiendsmith Engraver. And I know there's an argument to be made, it is too soon to see a hit to the Fiendsmith engine. outside of Lacrima. But given that we're going to be having so many new meta decks applied to us in a very short amount of time, it would not surprise me if we do see just a tiny hit to the Fiendsmith engine, unlike what they did with the Snake Eye, letting it just kind of roam free. I think Konami putting Fiendsmith and Graver to 2 could trim down a little bit of the consistency, but still allowing the deck to keep up with the current meta. And then wrapping up our semi-unlimited list, it's kind of a choose your adventure, and honestly, they're both kind of nuts. And that is because with the increase of hand traps being released, like all the Mulcharmies that we've been seeing, we're going to be seeing Konami give us something to counter them, such as a semi-limitation to Called by the Grave. And I know this is not what a lot of players would like to hear, and honestly kind of goes against the sentiment of Konami kind of keeping down older cards to let the new cards run free, and I do understand that. But right now, the TCG's alternative to Called by the Grave is Crossout Designator at 3, and that's a good option for the players that already have the cards. So I do believe in some form or fashion, Konami will give us something like Called by the Grave to deal with the hand traps on the first turn. And that leads us to our second option, everyone's favorite hand trap, Psy-Frame Gear Gamma. Now, Gamma has been limited for quite some time, and it's kind of to do with, if you're going first, the hand trap, you Gamma, you get all sorts of advantage. But right now, with the Mulcharmies floating around the way they are, Psy-Frame Gear Gamma can definitely go past 1 in the TCG. And if I'm correct, we're actually seeing that tested as we speak in Master Duel. So whether it's Called by the Grave or Psy-Frame Gear Gamma, I do believe Konami will be giving us one of these cards to be outing the Mulcharmy package on the semi-limited list. So definitely comment down below which one that you think it's going to be. And now that leads us to our unlimited section, and we're going to be starting off with the usual suspects, the Dragon Rulers. Much like in the OCG, I do believe TCG will be following suit with the unlimitation of Blaster, Redox, Tidal, as well as Tempest. And now we saw them go from 1 to 2, slowly back to potentially 3 here. And as we saw, so far, there hasn't been quite a shakeup in the metagame. But it wouldn't surprise me if given enough time and more future support that Dragon Rulers don't come roaring back. But as of now, going to 3 for each of them, definitely something in the future of the TCG. And we got to give a shout out because this would complement well with 2 gold sarcophagus. And now the next card on our unlimited list is everyone's favorite frog, Substitute. And now we saw that Substitute was one of the most sought after reprints of 2024, and it definitely got the reprints it deserved. But not only did it get its reprints, but we saw all sorts of reprints for cards like Swap Frog, Ronin Totem, all sorts of frog support. And given that we're seeing support being leaked to the water attribute itself, and it would not be a surprise to players if frogs were in line to be receiving some archetype support. And following suit is a card that I was assuming would be put to 3 quite some time ago, and that is Reasoning. And now we saw Infernoid support come and go, and honestly made a little bit of a splash, but now you don't even see it. And I do believe that is because in the TCG, Reasoning's at 1, Monster Gate is at 1, and we have a 1 of Grass is Greener. And honestly, when we look at the numbers in the OCG, it is not a surprise that their Infernoid deck is doing much better. So Reasoning is definitely a card I could see going to 3, especially after we saw all the reprints of it in Rarity Collection 1. And now one of the cards that will probably get a lot of players to hate me, and that is Naturia's Sacred Tree. And now I will always say, this card got hit way too soon, and if players are tired of Runic's playing Runic Stun, you gotta give them a different deck to combo with. And Naturia Runic was amazing. And again, Konami, you hit this too soon. But guys, that is the ban list prediction video, and if I missed anything at all, comment it down below. And if you got anything from the video, definitely smash that like button because those go a long way. But if you want to check out some other cards that might be coming off the list, definitely click on the video above. But most importantly, stay safe, have a good night, and suck it, nerds.